ASEAN Breakfast Call. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello. Good morning.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Durian ASEAN.
Welcome back after 2 days of
Yes.
weekends, you mean?
A long weekend.
So what did you do during your weekends besides watching the Suzuki Cup?
The Suzuki Cup was something that was so intense, the match between Malaysia and Singapore, not only because of the match, but also because of our history with Singapore and how we're always trying to compete with them and everything.
I told you that I'm not a football fan, and I don't usually watch football except when it's World Cup. But my dad made me watch Suzuki Cup, and I actually enjoyed it a lot, especially the second half. I almost thought that Singapore had the upper hand.
I think we all thought that Singapore was going to win the match
I was
because
like, damn, face bump to Malaysia again.
Because Singapore only needed a draw to get through the semi-finals, but we needed a win. So whatever Singapore scores, we had to score one more just to secure our spot. And as soon as it was a draw, everyone, I think, lost hope and like, okay, maybe next time Singapore has this one.
I was almost like embarrassed, like, don't tell me we are going to lose to a tiny Singapore.
But we lost to them so many times. I think this is the first time that we won in nearly 12 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God, face bump to Malaysia. But at least, for this particular match, we did a last-minute U-turn in terms of our chances to win.
Yes, and also the final goal was very interesting because the keeper wasn't even there. And if
that was... I mean, that was beautiful. I think the final goal was beautiful, but the penalty kick, a lot of people actually disputed whether it was really a penalty or whether the referee should give a penalty kick.
Well, if they want to dispute that, I will also like to dispute the 10,000 free kicks that Singapore got that night. Well, the thing is, yeah, especially towards the final when the keeper, I think he was actually underestimating Malaysia. Like, okay, it's nearly stoppage time. They're not going to score. I can just run over to the other end of the field. But the fact is, we had a very beautiful counter-attack, which was by just one person, and he just ran all the way and he netted the ball, and we had our third goal. And 3-1 is quite a solid win. It's not like we got lucky. We really worked hard for to secure the win against Singapore.
But nevertheless, I felt that luck was on Malaysian side at the very, very last minute. Without that penalty kick, I don't think Malaysia would even create these chances of having to do the extra goal at the very last minute.
But that also goes back to the Singapore team kind of underestimating Malaysia, and the defenders themselves were not fast enough to stop this guy, because if he had just ran by himself, like, we know it's going to be offside, but he actually had two defenders in front of him, but they were not fast enough to stop him. And we had our winning goal.
Not fast enough.
So Malaysia has kicked out Singapore off the group stage, and we are on to the semi-finals now.
I want to ask you one question. I know this is a bit racist because I'm asking about race, but did you were looking at both teams' composition of race?
Yeah.
Did you see any Chinese there?
No, I don't think I did.
But I think I did see one Chinese in a majority Chinese Singapore population, but they had majority of them are Malay and Indians, surprisingly.
Yes.
But
well, I was gonna say that probably goes back to Malays and Indians probably playing more football than the Chinese kids.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? The reality of Malaysia and Singapore when it comes to race composition, what is the favorite pastime of different races, seems to be very divided, and it shows not just in terms of the way they do things in terms of their hobby, but also in terms of employment.
And what's also very beautiful about this is you see Malays in Singapore and you see Malays in Malaysia, but they were very clear. We are Malaysians, we are Singaporeans. So that race thing was not really a huge factor for them. It was not a barrier. And even Malaysians who were there, they were supporting the Malaysians. And this is where it goes back to our whole One Malaysia thing.
So are you saying saying that you want Singapore. I mean, you're hinting that maybe Singapore one day would get back from
No, that's not
divorce?
what I'm saying. No.
Okay, anyway, the reason why I asked about race, maybe it has nothing to do with the Suzuki Cup, but it's quite apparent that race is still a major problem, not just in Malaysia, but in Singapore. There's this one writer, it's an opinion piece. She wrote that if you aren't Chinese, you can't compete in Singapore. And the reality of race is very real to the extent that it actually affects businesses.
I think if you aren't Chinese, you can't compete pretty much anywhere. Because they are known for being
You
so...
are being racist too.
Well, I'm going back to the whole historical evidence that they have always been probably... not, I wouldn't just say the hardest working one, but the very enterprising ones, they are more likely to start their own business as opposed to just getting like a government job. It's just in their culture. So when it goes
I think you have a lot of brainwashing that I need to do.
I guess because I'm from Penang as well, so I grew up seeing that sort of thing.
Yeah, but if you look at the situation that is happening in Singapore right now, they are actually quite selective in terms of who should be the migrant workers, especially the unskilled migrant workers in Singapore.
Mm-hmm. And it seems that Singapore doesn't also allow you to hire Indian or any Southeast Asian workers working
so no
in the
Pakistani
staff.
and Bangladeshi and no Indians. I'm sorry, Gowri, you can't work there. Oh yeah, you can. You are Malaysian. With the exception of Malaysian.
Yes, I'm Malaysian, not Bangladeshi.
So that means they have a very small pool of selection of Malaysian Indian only. That is actually a big issue because she was actually quoted. She was actually quoting this one local biryani shop called Blue Diamond. He was being charged with a penalty for giving a salary lower than he's supposed to. But the main problem is he has to employ only Chinese nationals.
Right, and also it says this puts any non-Chinese business at a disadvantage, as these workers only tend to speak in Chinese, and it's not easy to manage staff that you cannot communicate with. And we pretty much have that thing going on in Malaysia too. It is a parallel situation.
Are you saying that Malaysian? But yeah, I'm not sure whether it's true or not. But I never seen a Chinese national migrant workers in Malaysia.
As in when it comes to, even though it's not about a Chinese national, even when you're looking for jobs, a lot of employers only want workers who can communicate in Mandarin for the probably to expand the business, and they want to go regional, and they think that Mandarin is so important. So it is technically a disadvantage for anyone who can't speak the language, who can't speak in Mandarin.
Yeah, probably. But in Singapore, the Ministry of Manpower, who is in charge with regulating labor, unfortunately said that for the service sector, they only grant workers the permit for work can only be granted for workers from North Asian countries like China, Hong Kong, South Korea, Macau, and of course with the exception of Malaysia, like I said just now. It's actually unfair, you know. I mean, let's say your dad owns a biryani shop in Singapore, or maybe not biryani shop, but some Indian food shop, and you need and your customer are mainly, you know, tourists from India. You can't be employing someone from China to deal with the customers, right? It's a bit absurd.
Yes, and to add to that point, it also says here that how are these Mandarin-speaking servers going to pronounce things like palak paneer, which is, or a lot of other food names, which are obviously very, very Indian, and it's from the north, from the south. It can get complicated. Probably we don't even know how to pronounce it properly, and this is someone who is actually from China.
I mean, it's really unfair because we assume, with the assumption that Singapore is a liberal country, liberal not just in terms of the way how business can come in and do business, but also in terms of the movement of labor, and in terms of in terms of not discriminating against minority groups. But it seems like it is overtly discriminating towards minority groups. You give example of certain companies want Mandarin only speakers, but that goes the same way with some Indian restaurant. They probably want an Indian speaking, a Tamil speaker or some Indian language speaking person to deal with the customer.
Yes, and she also said that to hire staff who speaks their language as the only reason, it seems that the whole community is liable to be criminalized, and that is racist.
Mm-hmm. And she actually made a very interesting point. She said that because only Chinese or only those from the North East Asia can be servers or can work in the service industry, she said that what is the policy telling to them? Because Filipinos can be maids but not server. Indians are good for being construction coolies, but they don't want to see them as hotel staff. So that's also the reason why you see some people having difficulty pronouncing some Indian words, because they are not Indian. It's not. They probably had a very Chinese accent. Like I cannot imagine how you pronounce palak paneer in a Chinese accent.
Well, maybe you just did.
Palak paneer.
So the Ministry of Manpower is, like you said, he decreed the work permits in the service sector, and all these workers are from the North Asian sources, the People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, South Korea, Macau, but there are also other countries around the region where people are going to Singapore to look for a job. So are they going to do something about this? Are they going to bend the policies a little bit? I guess we don't know yet for now.
We don't know yet. But moving on to another news, also a huge problem in terms of employment. I think Southeast Asia has a lot of problem when it comes to labor. In Malaysia, it's totally different thing. Probably Grace would want to sit here to talk with us because we are actually talking about North Korea, but not in terms of what is happening there, but what is happening in Malaysia. A lot of Malaysians last week were raising their eyebrows when they hear one North Korean were killed in a mining. In a mine, and apparently they are working in Malaysia legally.
And these people are, when it comes to industries such as coal mines, of course the jobs are very dangerous, and it seems that no local or Sarawakian will dare to take up such jobs, which is why they are bringing in people not only from Korea but also from Britain and China.
No wonder Kim Jong-un has an honorary degree in Help University. I'm sorry, Grace. But it seems like Malaysia and North Korea have a good relationship. If you look at this in this way, they actually import North Korean workers as coolies working in mining business, in coal mine in this case.
And this minister also said, like you mentioned earlier, they have very valid work and immigration permits that the Malaysian government had given the go-ahead for their recruitment. So, and many of these people are from the communist countries, and they are working or having businesses here. And all they have to do is come here legally, work legally, and try to stay out of trouble, and they will be well off.
So one step backward for Malaysian government, although they defended by saying that, hey, you know why we are employing North Koreans? Because you Malaysians are
don't
not
want
working,
to do the job.
don't want to do the job and are not working hard enough like them. And you know why they are working hard enough? It's because they are oppressed. They don't have rights. Come on, man.
So going back to this, it was not only the Korean that was killed. We also had one man from Burma and one man from Indonesia. Jokowi will not be happy about this.
Jokowi, step in.
He's been very vocal about how his workers are being treated overseas. I'm pretty sure we're going to hear from him very soon, especially because it's Malaysia that we're talking about.
And apparently, this is something new for us, reported in The Guardians. Apparently, North Koreans are not just laborers in Malaysia, but they are also laborers, like coolie levels or laborers in other developing countries like Qatar. They are one of the workers in building the 2022 World Cup Finals stadium. That's crazy.
That is crazy, and there's also been a lot of dispute on whether or not the World Cup should be held in Qatar because it's so hot there. It's very, very difficult for the players, for people to just sit there and watch, even especially for the players to be running around in the field. But they insist that they want to host the World Cup, and of course,
I'm going to boycott the 2022 World Cup. Seriously, I mean, I just cannot imagine. Like the stadium that we sit on is being built by slaves
who are not even getting paid, according to what's reported here.
Yeah, according to the defectors organization, North Korean Strategy Center, almost all of the wages of the workers, which is North Korean workers, sent abroad are remitted back to Kim Jong-un regime. So practically they are working for nothing.
And they are hoping that they will get paid when they go back to their respective companies in North Korea, because the company is actually handling these people. But of course, you know what happens when the money has to pass through so many people. It's really hard for it to reach them, or they'll probably get like a very, very small cut from the whole thing.
So Malaysian, I think all Malaysians should gang up together and demand an explanation from the government. It's not just about whether the work is legal or not. It's about, are these people being treated with
given
care, given their rights and with care, and they are not just simply being abused as another modern slave business. And moving on to another news, talking about money. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm a bit tired to talk about this. It's just that, Gowri.
What?
Well, okay, this is a story that has been quite a debate recently when we went to the UNDP
Are we talking
event.
about Zeti again?
Yeah, that's why I'm a bit tired. But this is a rebuttal to Zeti on why Malaysians have zero household savings, and it's actually true and staggering. And if you really read through the UNDP report, which we have here in Durian ASEAN, it's actually it's very sad, because when people talk about saving, they are not talking about just putting money in banks, because you know, Malaysians, we have to have a bank account, especially if you want your boss to bank in the paycheck every end of the month. And of course, as a student, you also need a bank account. But what he's mentioning when he comes to savings is about financial investment. It's about how much money or how much assets that you have. And apparently Malaysians do not have that much, or none at all.
Of course, she came up with something that was completely different. She said, no, 90% of Malaysians do have a saving, and this report is not very accurate because it doesn't take certain factors into consideration. But there are times when you look at a certain news, and you know that no research is even needed for you to dispute that.
That's
like
true.
When the government came up and said our GDP per capita was 5,000, you don't need no research to know that our per capita is not 5,000. There are so many people who are getting only 900. A lot of fresh grads don't even get the 2005 that they are supposed to. So where did this 5,000 come from? And when you look at this report as well, we know that there's still so many poor people in Malaysia. You know, it's not just about KL, it's not just about Penang, it's all the 14 states together. And do you really think that every one of them is actually well off just because a certain group is?
Let me give you some numbers just to illustrate why they meant what they meant. For example, in 2009, the report stated that household constitute only 2.2% of gross national savings, while the vast bulk coming from corporate and government sectors. And if you really look through the report itself, it shows that not just 90% of Malaysians do not have savings or have zero savings, but also if you compare the Gini coefficient between the inequality of financial asset, it shows Malaysia is actually at 0.9, meaning that the vast bulk of financial asset is being concentrated in a very, very small numbers of individuals.
And I also find this very interesting that they said it is methodologically and empirically insufficient to equate savings with mere possession of a savings account, which is true because just because I have like 5 savings account, maybe I have like 50 ringgit in each account, and that doesn't mean that I have a saving. It's just there and it's got very little money, and it doesn't mean anything. If I have 5 bank accounts, doesn't mean that I have a substantial amount of savings with me.
And to equate that, just because someone has an account in Tabung Haji or PNB is not true as well, because their data shows that 57% of Malaysians have no financial investment. This is consistent with the data from Tabung Haji, which shows that about 2/3 of Muslims do not have an account with Tabung Haji. So, I mean, while about half of Bumiputra do not have an account with ASB. So it shows that only a small percentage of Malaysians actually have like proper investment, saving, mutual funds and all that. We have to thank researchers Tan Sri Kamil Saleh, Dr. Muhammad Abdul Khalid and Dr. Lee Hock An for doing the research on behalf of the Malaysian Human Development Report 2013. So I mean it's quite sad that we have to go to this direction where, you know, for independent researcher to highlight the fact that Malaysians do not have proper savings at all.
And it's also tough because for them, they have to actually reach out to all groups of people, like we mentioned earlier, and it's not just a selective group because that will not really tell us the real situation.
And another news that is looming large and it's even sadder, it's actually very, very sad. I mean, I'm not a follower of Thai monarchy, but whenever there's a news about Thai monarchy, it's always very sad.
And it's sad in a way that the people in the country have to suffer the consequences. And it's really hard when there is a ruling elite, when they think that they can just get away with doing whatever that they want to do. Without...
I mean, every young girl, they have a dream, thanks to Disney, to marry a prince. But doesn't mean that when you marry a prince is happy ever after.
Do you want to marry a prince? Yes, you do. Okay.
No, I don't want. After reading this news, I mean, this is not his first wife, definitely. But when he decided to marry another wife, he actually stripped the royal title of his current wife, which is Princess Sri Rasmi Akrapong Pricha. It's really sad because he can just simply like get rid of any wife just like that, just because he doesn't fancy her anymore.
And of course he said that this is because of certain scandals that came to light, that a lot of corruption scandals that her family members were involved in, which is why he's trying to get rid of her.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for highlighting, as if Thailand is a very clean country.
And he is also set to take in this one girl who is a former air stewardess as his official consort. I was very intrigued by that term.
Consort?
No, official. Because for him to just pick a girl, and of course she'll be the replacement after the divorce of his current wife, and she is. If it's really because of the scandal, he probably wouldn't have already have a replacement there waiting for it.
Yeah, that's true. Apparently, the downfall of the downfall of Princess Sri Rasmi comes at a very sensitive time, which is this time where the whole of Thailand is being controlled by the military generals.
And whoever who becomes the next the princess, or whoever who becomes the royal consort as well, will actually become the next queen when he succeeds his father.
If you remember clearly, a few months ago, one of the circulated videos about Princess Sri Rasmi in a hotel where she was stripped naked together with him, celebrating the birthday of his dog. Okay. No, I'm not kidding you. And because of that, people were talking behind her back, thinking that she's, her name has been tarnished. She should not be the next queen. Someone more cleaner, with a cleaner image, should be the next queen. And it's sad that what binds people together are status and political interests and not love.
And the King Bhumibol has been in the throne since 1946, and he's the world's longest reigning monarch, apparently.
So not you, Gowri. You're not the diva here.
I'm
Someone
not.
else has taken your spot. Anyway, that's all for our news today.
Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well.
And listen to us at durianasian.com, or you can go to TuneIn and
Look for Durian ASEAN.
yeah.